But it's a good start, you know. Man, it's almost like the new guys have been here. You know, started with George and, you know, his on-the-ball pressure and, you know, him just running the team. And then the three guys came off the bench. You know, Jordan is, you know, he's ready to score at any point in time, but his composure was great. Rodney plays with so much poise, and you know, Larry was just controlling the perimeter, saying great pick and rolls, got him a lob, got him a dunk. So, you know, it's a good start for the new guys, good start for all of us, you know, with our revamped team so far.
Welcome to SI Now. I'm Robin Lundberg with Madeline Burke, and that was a solid scouting report from LeBron James, who led his new teammates to a blowout win over the Celtics on Paul Pierce Day in Boston.
LeBron was pretty excited about the performance of that team, though I was really surprised to hear that he knew their names. I mean, so many new faces around there. I'm wondering if they had to play like a name game icebreaker or anything before the game. But how good can this Cavs team be after seeing that game?
I think this Cavs team, and this is not reacting to the game in Boston. I mean, I said this when the trade went down. They're now the clear favorites in the East again. This is about as good a LeBron plus role players team as you can design. They have addition with the players coming in. They have addition by subtraction with the players going out who didn't fit. They got more shooting. They got more athleticism. And the quote that summed it up, I think, was when George Hill said LeBron's Batman and we've all got to be Robins. And if you were to design a point guard in a lab to play next to LeBron, it'd be George Hill, outside of a superstar talent like Kyrie, you know, because Hill controls the ball, plays defense, can hit the spot up three without needing the ball. And they might not have a second creator who can go get his at any time, but they got a bunch of guys who can score in Clarkson, in Hood. To me, this is a souped-up version of the 2015 finals team that gave Golden State some trouble, and I think that the Cavs are going to rake teams.
Well, and the Cavs really needed this. This is the first time they beat a top-5 team since opening day. They've been really struggling. A lot of new faces, a lot of new role players. Like you mentioned, they fit in well. A lot of also passion because of that Kyrie-LeBron matchup. I mean, you saw that Kyrie shot in LeBron's face, Isaiah Thomas liking it on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. But there will be some tensions in between these two teams. We'll see if the Cavs can continue the success as they face other top-tier opponents. Now, despite the loss, it was a big day in Boston. Paul Pierce, who played 15 seasons with the Celtics, had his number 34 retired at the Garden with his family, his former coach Doc Rivers, and former teammates Kevin Garnett and Rajon Rondo in attendance. Ray Allen, though, he was busy golfing with George Lopez instead of being there, but, you know, I digress. Anyways, the Paul Pierce's number retired is the 22nd number retired by the Celtics, the most of any pro sports franchise in North America. Now, where does the truth rank among all-time Celtics greats?
Paul Pierce is a great player. I think it got lost a little bit, you know, when Draymond Green said, "You're not Kobe." And then with his day being spoiled, he looked all upset in the meme after LeBron and the Cavs waxed the Celtics. I think you can argue Pierce is as high as number 3 all-time amongst Boston Celtics. The top 2 are clearly Bill Russell and Larry Bird. And then next up, you go to Bob Cousy, who, you know, we didn't see played in the 50s. You go to Kevin McHale, who wasn't the top guy on that Bird team. Remember, Pierce started his career in Boston, and then when they brought in Garnett and Allen, he was still the guy to get buckets in crunch time. I would probably put Paul Pierce number 3 all-time amongst Boston Celtics.
3 is pretty high up there. Now, Robert Parrish called Paul Pierce, quote, the greatest offensive Celtic ever, saying, quote, I just think that Paul was more creative. He was a better scorer than Larry Bird and John Havlicek. Now, he has 24,021 points, career points for the Celtics, second only to John Havlicek. That right there is some quality company to keep. Number 2, number 3, I could see that 10-time All-Star, NBA Finals MVP in 2008. Definitely deserves to have his number up there.
And you don't want that Celtics team to get lost to history. I mean, it was a very important team in a few ways when they had some series against the Lakers, so you reignited Lakers-Celtics. And
breaking that drought as well.
Pierce was also LeBron's chief rival during that time. They went back and forth, and that team might have been the biggest reason we saw the Miami Heat formed and LeBron leaving Cleveland the first time around. Now, the Indianapolis Colts, they have a new head coach. For real this time. Eagles offensive coordinator Frank Reich will sign a 5-year deal to take over the helms of the team, with GM Chris Ballard perhaps throwing some shade at Josh McDaniels, saying he wanted, quote, someone that's 100% committed to partnering with us and getting that work done. To that point, could the Colts have actually done better with Reich over McDaniels?
Well, first of all, I have to acknowledge that tweet right there, because slow clap for the Colts Twitter account. That was well played. A fan is like, I'm not sure I'm buying this after being burned by McDaniels. Had to see a photo of him holding that day's newspaper to know it was real. So picks or it didn't happen kind of a thing. But also, I don't think Reich is that much of a surprise. He helped lead the Super Bowl winning Eagles offense to 3rd in scoring, 7th in yards. He was expected to have a lot more head coaching interest this offseason, but he didn't even receive an interview request until the Colts called, which was surprising. It was kind of a similar story last year as well, though. He was supposed to have a meeting lined up regarding the Bills' open position, but he never really formally spoke with the club. He's been a coach since 2008. He's been with the Colts, the Chargers, the Eagles as an assistant, but this is his first head coaching gig. The guy's most known perhaps for leading the Bills' offense from that 32-point deficit in '93 playoffs, but I think he could bring something exciting, and I do like that he is hanging on to some of the people that are signed on as well. He's like, all right, this is a good staff to work with as well.
Well, you got to feel good about him coming off of that Super Bowl, obviously, and the kind of game they coach offensively. Not just the ring, the way they went about getting it, right? Not being afraid in those moments. McDaniels has proven himself in New England, and that cachet is attached to him because of being in New England. But Reich is totally fresh as a head coach, so I could see having the good vibes about that. I'm not going to say definitively they did better with Reich over McDaniels, but I can't say the other way either, that this is a downgrade.
I think that there was some rumblings about Reich. I think that it could be a sleeper successful pick for them. But with the Reich being hired, Philadelphia has now lost 2 of its top offensive assistants from the Super Bowl staff, as John DeFilippo is now the offensive coordinator in Minnesota. How does this affect the Eagles going forward?
Well, I mean, I think you could see some sort of impact. I mean, talent's the most important thing. They still have the talent, do the Eagles, and they still have the head coach in Peterson, who deserves a lot of credit for what happened. But we saw what happened with Shanahan leaving the Falcons. They weren't the same offensive team the next year, so they're going to have to adjust a little bit. We have to see it play out, but it's not inconsequential to lose the guy who's calling the plays. And this was a team in the Eagles where the play calling was really on fire down the stretch, in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, so on and so forth. So you have to hope you can keep that going, sans Reich.
Right. Well, spring is in the air, which means the brackets are starting to be built. The NCAA Selection Committee has released a preliminary bracket. And if the tournament started today, Virginia, Villanova, Xavier, and Purdue would all be #1 seeds. Now, Robin, does it feel like there's no surefire top-tier team for a while?
Absolutely. I mean, it feels like there's more parity, period. There's no Kentucky. You didn't just say Kentucky. There's no Duke. You didn't just say Duke. There's no North Carolina. So not only are the NBA prospects lacking, but the college stars aren't really there either. There's no Josh Hart, let's say, for Villanova. Virginia doesn't have a star college player. It's just a bunch of good players. So when it comes to who's going to win or who's the heavy favorite, I don't think you look at Virginia, Villanova, Purdue, or Xavier and think, oh, either or any of these teams is dominant, and that can lend itself well to the format when it comes to March Madness.
They're not sexy programs. They're quality programs, but they're the equivalent of LeBron's teammates. They're like, all right, they're good. They're getting the job done. Without LeBron, though. So definitely going to make for some fun to watch in March.
It's day 4 at the Winter Olympics in PyeongChang. Here's who won, what made news, and which events you should watch. Snowboarder Red Gerard became the first American to earn gold this Winter Olympics. The 17-year-old won the men's slopestyle, becoming the youngest gold medalist ever in snowboarding. Meanwhile, on the women's side, American Jamie Anderson won her 2nd consecutive gold medal in slopestyle. She's the first female snowboarder to win 2 Olympic gold medals. Chris Masder made history by capturing silver in men's singles luge, the first ever medal for the U.S. in that event. On the ice, American figure skaters wrapped up the team event with a bronze medal, highlighted by Mirai Nagasu's historic triple axel. Norway's Marit Bjørgen became the most decorated female Winter Olympian after taking silver in the 15-kilometer cross-country ski. The weather has played a factor early in these games, with high winds delaying the debut of 2014 slalom gold medalist Michaela Schifrin. Finally, looking ahead, Chloe Kim dominated the qualifying round of the women's snowboard halfpipe and appears poised to lead a potential American podium sweep. Watch that in primetime Monday night. A little controversy with scoring in team figure skating as Adam Rippon of the U.S. skated a clean program, while Olympic athlete from Russia, I don't know if I'll get used to saying that, Mikhail Kolyada and Canada's Patrick Chan both fell but scored better. Following the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, an emphasis was placed on innovation rewarding skaters who try different things. Do you think this is the right way to approach scoring, and is it too subjective when it comes to judging?
Absolutely. I mean, figure skating judging has always been subjective, but this is a problem that they've tried to address. Like up until 2004, figure skating was judged on a 6-point scale. So the highest score you could get was 6.0. But that kind of made so much more room for judges to be biased towards their home country. They were able to boost up their favorites. So the international judging system was born, and that kind of takes into account technical and style numbers. But it is still flawed. For example, there's more points for falling on a difficult jump than landing an easier one. Like the more complicated the move, the higher the value. For example, a quadruple toe loop is worth 10.3 points, and it would earn a lot more than a double toe loop, which is only worth 1.3 because it's harder to pull off. So even if you attempt the quadruple and don't land it, you're still getting more points than if you land a perfect double, which I think is not ideal. But it's tough to, like, it is a subjective sport. And
you can't eliminate subjectivity when it comes to judging. I mean, you have those.
They try. They eliminate the highest and lowest scores out of it, so they just go with the middle of the pack, and they're approaching it in a way that they're attempting to eliminate the subjectivity, but it's subjective by nature. It's just like the, bracketology or the college football playoff.
Or boxing. I mean, how about that scored by judges? I mean, even sports where it's not that way. I mean, we find something to complain about, a penalty flag in football, a charge block call in basketball, so on and so forth. But if you're actually talking about the emphasis they're putting there, I understand why. There has to be a happy medium, though, right?
Right.
I mean, because it is more impressive when somebody in the slam dunk contest does a 360 and puts the ball between their legs and misses, rather than somebody just going up regular two-hand dunking it. But you have to also execute where you can't be falling on every hard attempt and being rewarded. So they need to figure out the scoring systems where it lands somewhere in the middle, where you are rewarded for attempting the more difficult jumps, but also, there is the points for having that clean skate program.
And just like you mentioned in the dunk contest, though, it takes the air out of the balloon if they don't make it in the first try. There should be some more value for a flawless program. Like we saw for the viewer, it is much more entertaining or much more appreciated to watch a program that goes completely without hiccup. When you're watching people fall and still win high medals, it's like, this is confusing. I thought that you were supposed to land that jump or do that. But, they've been attaching judges' names to the scores and trying to make it less controversial. We'll see how long that goes. All right, for the first time in history, North and South Korea competed together during a women's hockey match on Saturday. Now, despite the fact that the team was crushed by Switzerland, losing 8-0, it was a moment of hope. American IOC member and gold medal winner Angela Ruggiero says if it were up to her, the joint Korean team would be given the Nobel Peace Prize for coming together while the two nations are still technically at war. Now, sports have been a way of bringing people together. Is this the latest example of that, Robin?
I hope so. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend any real-world issues are fixed because of this, but you would hope the people who could be doing the fixing of those issues would see it's not that hard sometimes, right? A lot of times these bridges are more, easier to get over than you would think because it's pride, it's ego, a variety of other things that get in the way. And therefore, as cliche or corny as it may sound, the purity of sport could be a good example.
Yeah, South Korea suggested it was a way to help ease the tensions between the North and the South, and it could be working. Kim Jong-un of North Korea has invited the South Korean president to talks for the first time in a decade, so we'll see if progress is made.
Spring training officially kicks off today with pitchers and catchers reporting for the Mets. SI's Albert Chen joins us to talk some baseball. Now, Albert, Darvish signs with the Cubs, 6 years, over $125 million. We know he had some struggles against the Astros in the World Series. How big an upgrade is this over, say, re-signing Jake Arrieta?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. He was horrendous in the playoffs. But we just can't be too swayed by a few postseason starts. I think going forward, you have to look at his upside versus Arrieta's. And Darvish was a great pitcher in the American League in a very difficult ballpark. He's going to Chicago. Great defense, the National League. I think Darvish's upside is great. Arrieta, meanwhile, I mean, you compare him, and it's just a cloudier picture just because, he's been trending downwards, and he's a little bit older than Darvish, so I think Darvish was the right guy. All things being equal, I think Darvish is the better pitcher.
Now, there are rumblings that outfielder J.D. Martinez is fed up with the Red Sox and is potentially looking for other suitors. Which team would be the best fit for Martinez at this point?
Yeah, you know, if you're Martinez, I mean, why not just go back to where this situation kind of brought you to, where he's a, coveted free agent? Arizona, I mean, he was a tremendous player there. He slugged like over 740 in Arizona. I mean, he was a tremendous player. He would be great back in the Diamondbacks. You look at a team like Atlanta, where they're one piece away maybe from a cornerstone guy to contending. He could be a very interesting guy with the Braves. But I go to Seattle, the Mariners. This is a team that has been cursed. I mean, they haven't been to the playoffs. It's the longest drought in all of professional sports. And he's the one guy where he would be a complete game changer. They need some power. They need some home runs. And I think J.D. Martinez on the Mariners would just be a great fit.
Now, an odd situation, there are so many remaining free agents that baseball has allowed a free agent training camp of sorts. Do you think this is good for the sport, or does it set a bad precedent in the sense that the teams will be able to drive down the value of player contracts?
Good for the sport? I don't know. It's bad for the players. There's no question about it. I mean, essentially forcing players like Jose Bautista into early retirement. Mike Moustakas, an all-star, could be without a team. He could be sitting home in his living room on opening day. So it's no question it's a bad situation. When you're talking about boycotts potentially during spring training, it doesn't look great for baseball. I would argue if you're talking about sort of back to what the market really is, player salaries were inflated for a very long time. These players agreed to a collective bargaining agreement that essentially created this environment. So at the end of the day, I think we're getting back to reality. We're getting back to teams paying a reasonable amount for these players. And so long term, I think this is a good thing for baseball. Short term, it could get very ugly this spring training.
Sounds like music to Derek Jeter's ears, probably. I mean, considering the way he's run things, staying in the news, dumping off the big contracts, trading star players. But now they've raised ticket prices, the Marlins have. How do they justify that? Or does Jeter have some grand plan we're not aware of yet?
I think if you're Jeter, you just continue to lay low because it's very hard to justify what's going on there. I mean, a lot of people are asking, can Jeter put them back on track? Well, I would argue they were always on track. They had a great outfield. Last year, they were sort of contenders for quite a bit and really just a few pitchers away from contending. And you look at the market now, if you had like a Jake Arrieta, an Alex Cobb for cut rate prices, we'd be talking about the Marlins as potential, wild card contenders at least. So I don't know. I mean, I think in terms of Jeter's plan, it's obviously a long-term plan. We can't really assess it properly for another few years. From a business standpoint, sure, maybe they're a little bit more profitable. From a baseball standpoint and from a wins and losses standpoint, this could be a disaster.
Operation Wolverine, great for profit, not necessarily for the on-the-field
See, Wolverine
product.
heals fast. This sounds like it's going to take longer.
It's going to take a little bit longer for the healing to go. Okay, Albert, which team are you most excited to see take the field this spring?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of teams. You can start in Florida with the Yankees, Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge. I mean, they're going to be the rock stars of spring training in Tampa. I look to sort of the upstart teams that have made a lot of moves. The Brewers with Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain, they're going to be a very interesting, everyone's going to talk about them as a playoff team. But I think the biggest team are the Angels. Shohei Ohtani, the big mystery, now paired with Mike Trout, Albert Pujols. A lot of questions there. How is he going to fare the first game in spring training? Like, what are the Angels going to do in terms of the lineup and where he pitches potentially in the rotation or in the bullpen? A lot of questions I think the Angels are asking themselves. So I think the Angels are going to be by far the most intriguing storyline, and I think that's going to be the storyline to watch. What is Ohtani? And it's going to be very interesting. If Ohtani is the guy, suddenly the Angels could be the most interesting team in LA.
Angels, Yankees, good answers. Definitely not the Marlins. Albert, appreciate it, man. After a long break, the Champions League returns on February 13th with its round of 16 games. Joining us to preview the knockout stages is Luis Miguel Echegaray. Now, Real Madrid-PSG is probably the marquee matchup in the round of 16. Could it be Champions League or bust for Real Madrid? And Zidane, is his job on the line?
I don't know if his job is on the line, but this is basically make or break for Zidane. I think, La Liga is done. Barcelona are basically taking care of that. And this is really the only saving grace for Real Madrid fans to get behind. This is obviously a really tough matchup against PSG with Neymar, Cavani, Mbappe, and such a deep squad that they have. But yeah, this is really it for Real Madrid. They really need to do well in this tournament in order to have some kind of saving grace by the end of the season.
You talked about Neymar. If he has a great series against Madrid, could you see them making a move to pick him up?
It was one of those bold predictions that I said earlier a few weeks ago. I'm going to stick with it, although I've been talking to many experts, regarding the club and everything like that. And, many are now considering the fact that he's going to stay put in the summer. But I just don't know, because I just know how Neymar's, crew operates, how his father operates in terms of the negotiations with contracts. It also depends a lot on what happens in the World Cup and how Brazil do there. If PSG wins the Champions League and things are looking good, then there's no reason for him to stay. But Ligue 1 is such an easy league for him. I think that if not this season, next season, he is definitely going to La Liga, I think.
Now, Antonio Conte, he's been under fire as of late as the Blues have struggled recently in the Premier League. What can he do against Chelsea to pull off what can he do for Chelsea to pull off the upset against Barcelona?
Oh my God, he has to do a lot. I don't really, this is Barcelona we're talking about right now, the hottest team in Europe. I think that many things have to happen. One of Antonio Conte's biggest issues has been the fact that the formation that they've been playing in has not really changed, and everybody in the league has adapted to that. Now, when you face off against the best team in Europe right now, how is he going to even change that? Taking in mind also now he has Olivier Giroud, who's come from Arsenal to Chelsea, who's really like a very central striker. His movement is very limited. He's a great player, but he's not like a very dynamic player that can cause a lot of problems like Aubameyang going to Arsenal. Morata is very injury prone. Michy Batshuayi, who I think is a really good player, really shouldn't have left. I think he could have given him a lot more versatility. So he's going to have to do a lot. I think a lot of it really begins in the midfield and how Kante operates and what Ross Barkley can do to help out. But I think he's not really going to be enough to beat Messi and co.
Do you think Kante's job could be on the line as well?
Give it a month. If things are not improving, he's out of there, mainly because of Abramovich and the way that his relationship is with coaches. But I think again, let's remember Chelsea are 4th right now. So, it's not like it's, the alert button right now. When Mourinho was fired, Chelsea were 16th. So we have to take a little bit of that into consideration. And also, since the beginning of December until right now, Chelsea has played an incredible amount of matches. They're just tired. But if you give it another month and things are going like this and they keep going down, Conte's gone.
Well, from the team struggling and the people struggling to a team that is not in Man City, rolling through the Premier League, is there any chance they're a bit preoccupied with what's going on in the dominance in England and fall short here?
No, I don't think so. I think that there's obviously the chance that they may not, do anything to go to the final. I think they're fine in this round. Playing Basel, I don't think it's going to be much of a challenge. I think they'll be good, but it's not going to be much of a problem. Pep Guardiola, being one of the best managers in the world, he knows how to manage his team. He knows how to manage his squad. Gabriel Jesus being injured is a problem, but I think they have enough quality to go through to the quarterfinals and even then some. This is an incredible team, and Guardiola has them clicking. So I don't see them, going anything. I think they'll get to at least the semifinals.
Well, those are the big teams and the big names. Is there any smaller team that you think could pull off a big-time upset?
Well, I think that Sevilla actually can do something against Manchester United. Sevilla are very good at home, protected by Banega and Luis Muriel up front. Another kid, Correa, on the wings. They're a really good, compact team at home. They've had some problems at home every now and again, but I think that behind their fan base, with a compact, organized midfield, they can cause a lot of damage to United. I'm not saying that they're going to get away with it and win 5-0 or anything like that, but if they go to Old Trafford and they perform and at least get some kind of close result, there is no reason to believe why they can't beat United when they go back to Sevilla.
Luis Miguel Echegaray with the preview of the Champions League, the best of the best when it comes to soccer or football. You can catch him on Planet Football as well.
Robin, Olympic snowboarder Chloe Kim has been tweeting that she's been eating ice cream and churros during this Olympic run and this training. I mean, got to get those calories in first of all, but I mean, that's got to be the diet that we kind of take on too during this Olympic run, right? Can we embrace that?
To be young again. I don't think I could. I couldn't go on air after that. I'd feel too guilty. It would
though.
affect my performance. I think I'd want to consume something I believe would help my performance. A protein bar, some almonds. An apple would be great. The only problem with an apple is oftentimes it gets stuck in your teeth, and then I would need to floss. So I don't know if I could do that.
Ice cream won't get stuck in your teeth. I feel like we're onto something here.
Ice cream, I've never had ice cream stuck in my teeth.
You've never had ice cream.
Well, of course I've had ice cream. Too much ice cream. That's the problem. You know, you can't have ice cream before the show. You just go all the way to the bottom of the pint. We'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on SI Now Live. Meanwhile, for the latest updates and videos, go to SI Now Live on Twitter, and I will not be eating any ice cream.
I'm a gelato fan myself.
Gelato,
I like
fancy.
It's a little, yeah, you know, you eat it with your pinky up.
Sometimes